G'day guys, welcome back. Another Bitcoin video today, discussing Bitcoin short term, discussing Bitcoin long term in terms of macro lines. We've got a few on-chain charts we need to look at as well. By a few, I mean two on-chain charts we need to look at. And then of course, we've got to look into the S&P 500 and traditional markets because they're on a bit of a rally right now. And they've been rallying ever since the last FOMC decision. And of course, the next FOMC decision is in 18 days from now. So just over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And we're kind of building up to that, and we're going to see what happens there. We're going to go through the market's expectations and what it could result in terms of movements in the price action, bearish or bullish, etc. Before we get into all of that, we need to look at a few things. If you're interested in becoming a trader, interested in learning how to trade, you can check out the Crypto Academy, which is a course developed by myself and Mega Crypto. If you're interested in joining the free community discussion group on Telegram, where you can discuss anything to do with crypto, you can do that in the pinned comment or description. And if you're interested in becoming a VIP member with the channel, which you get trading signals in a Telegram group, exclusive paid Telegram group, that's in the pinned comment and description as well as the results for that. So let's get into the video without further ado, guys. Starting off with Bitcoin short term, we've still got this massive triangle formation that we identified a couple videos ago. It is a bit sloppy. There are some fake outs, but ultimately this is the formation where we're staying with because we have seen clean retests of both the upside and the downside, regardless of the fake outs, both after and before the fact. We also have a miniature support line in form of this yellow dotted line here that has clearly seen itself as resistance and support over the last 3 or 4 days. And so right now, the tight range that I'm looking at for Bitcoin is actually zooming up within the triangle. And the range that I'm looking at really for Bitcoin at the moment for short-term scalps and trades is really the range between this dotted yellow line, which is basically the bottom being 16.3K and the top being 16.7K. So we've got a 400 USD range here for Bitcoin, which means we've got about a 2.5% range for Bitcoin, and that's compressing by the hour. So very tight range. And if we break that to the upside, we'll be seeing a retest of the top of the broader range at 17K. And if we break to the downside of that yellow dotted line, we'll be going straight back down to retest the bottom of the triangle or 16.2K, which is the weekly candle support zone. So short-term charts, still a bit of a mess, still a bit of consolidation, not really much going on there. There isn't really much in terms of technical indicators that really is giving us much of a guideline as to what can happen. All I can really say is that overall, the structure is a bearish pennant formation, but I don't really think that's indicative of a breakdown. To be honest with you, I think it's a little bit too confusing and too many fake outs for it to be a very concise and very precise, calculated bearish pennant formation. I think it's just a random triangle, and that's how I'm treating it. So I'm just going to wait for the breakout and see what happens there, and the predictions will be made after the breakout. Now, that's something I've stood by for about a week. And then moving forward, what we do have as well on Bitcoin is this monthly uptrending line that we've looked at. It's not actually a monthly line. We can go to the 2-week chart, for example, and it'll still be there. It's probably more consistent on the 2-week chart. Yeah, this uptrending line on whatever chart you might look at, which is stemming all the way back here from May 2014, okay, and then stemming through and cutting through the lows here in 2018, cutting through the lows in 2020, and being tested right now for support. And this is kind of telling us, along with another chart that I'm going to show you in a second, that Bitcoin does have strong support here. The other chart is the long-term power law, which is 3 kind of vertical, non-parallel, they're rapidly converging lines on Bitcoin on the logarithmic scale. As you can see, we're testing the low on that. We're kind of on support there at the red line. We'll zoom in and you can show you, yeah, red line, we're on support. We haven't lost that yet. So that's another bit of an indicator for major support there on Bitcoin in this price region. And then, of course, we could even zoom into something like the daily, we can even go to the daily chart on this chart here and show you what we've got here for Bitcoin in terms of support. And you can see if we pinpoint the low there and zoom back to 2020, we can see that that was actually resistance before we broke to the upside in 2020. And on the weekly candle close, if we go to the weekly chart on Bitcoin as well, we can go ahead and bring up where we closed the weekly candle, which of course was at, we'll move that up to 16.2K, and that of course was a resistance zone before we broke downwards in 2018. So we do have a lot of support here, okay, and this is something that I've mentioned a few times, and I'm mentioning again because I think it is pretty relevant. I know that not all of my subscribers watch all of my videos, so sometimes repeating myself is good because it actually gets the message across correctly, okay. We do have a lot of support here via multiple time frames, even via an on-chain chart. So that's worth noting. Also looking at the 3-day RSI, we have a red line drawn in there at 33.71. That is a support level on 3-day RSI. Every time we've lost that support level in the history, and you can go back and check this for yourself, every time we've lost that RSI support level on the 3-day chart by a 3-day candle close, we've seen a significant drop, anywhere between 20% deep and 70% deep. And every time we've held it, we've seen a bounce. Right now we're holding it, we're seeing a bounce off of it, and there is reason to believe that if we do break this triangle to the upside in the shorter term, that bounce will continue to the upside, and that bounce will materialize into an actual potential recovery on Bitcoin. So again, another positive thing there for Bitcoin. Another positive thing for Bitcoin is the monthly chart. And if we're looking at the monthly chart and we take off logarithmic, in fact, let's go ahead and move that downwards there. We can see that these RSI lines, the monthly chart, form kind of like a channel formation, okay? A parallel channel formation. And what you can see as well is that if we move this line downwards to match the bottom line, the angle of trajectory on this channel formation is pretty much parallel. So it is a confirmed channel, it's a correct channel. And what you can see is that we're at the bottom of that channel right now, right? Which means that unless we break below the channel, in which case the entire macro structure of Bitcoin will be dramatically affected, because not only would we break down below this macro line, we'd also break down below the RSI channel line, which has never happened before. Okay, every single bear market bottom we've had in 2015, 2018, we've seen a retest of the low of this channel. Even in the COVID drop during the wick, we saw a retest of the low of this channel, right? It didn't close there, therefore it wasn't kind of a confirmed touch. But we've never dropped below that channel before on the RSI line. So dropping below that would be absolutely detrimental. That's another thing there for Bitcoin that kind of acts as support there. We have that channel line. If we move to the monthly chart, that channel still exists. Okay, same thing on the monthly chart. We can just move that line upwards and it's the same channel essentially. And that, honestly, that's probably a better way to look at it, because the monthly chart is a more confirmed time frame than the 2-week chart. As you can see, yep, the channel still exists, still perfect, and it's still indicative of Bitcoin being on major support. So I would say, you know, this is something that I've hinted at for a while. I would say there is a significant chance that Bitcoin bottoms in this price region. I'd say there's a significant chance that Bitcoin's bottom is already in, to be honest with you. And I say that for multiple reasons. One of the reasons being that I'm a believer in the 4-year cycle. I'm a believer in the Q4 bottom. And this is my buying plan. Even though I just said that, I'm still preserving my buying plan because we bought 50% already at 17 to 18K. We will buy another 50% at 13.8K to 11.5K, or a weekly candle close above the bull market support band. And you might be thinking, well, Wolf, you know, if you're relatively confident that this might be the bottom, why would you wait for a lower price to buy in? Because we already bought at 17K, so buying at 16K is a waste of time. I'd rather wait for an actual lower price or an actual recovery, because otherwise we're just buying 100% in the same price region, which is not much of a buying plan, isn't it? That's just one large spot buy, which seems illogical to me. So I still think there is a significant chance that is considerable that we go lower, and so I'm happy to keep that 13.8K to 11.5K. But ultimately, if you had to hold a gun to my head at this point and say, oh, you know, Wolf, where do you think the bottom's going to be? I'd probably say it's already in, or at least it's going to be around this price region. Maybe we go down, test it again, maybe we drop below it slightly. But that's kind of my opinion at this point in time. I do need to remind people, though, again, it doesn't really matter what my opinion is. The buying plan is all that matters, and the buying plan gives you the best possible price on Bitcoin. I'm sticking to that regardless. So if we do go down to 13.8K to 11.5K, cool. The buying plan reflects that. My prediction meant nothing. Predictions are just words. Action is what matters, and that's very important to note with the buying plan there. And that's why I don't focus too much on predictions in this channel, other than bringing up the 4-year cycle, because it's not relevant. What's relevant is action and taking action. Predictions is just words. I want to briefly interrupt this video to talk about the BitGet Exchange. The BitGet Exchange has 5 times lower fees than Binance, which is the biggest major exchange in the cryptocurrency market on futures. It also has 0 fees on every single spot pair, so you can trade spot for entirely free, no fees included. It runs events. Right now it's got a FIFA World Cup event sponsored by Messi, the football player. It's got copy trading, strategy trading. It's got exclusive rewards and discounts in the reward center. It's got everything you need for a trader using an exchange. This is the exchange I personally use as a trader for my everyday trading, and I highly recommend everyone does so at the Wolves of Crypto YouTube channel. Sign up using my referral link for exclusive rewards and discounts. That really helps out the channel, and I appreciate it. For my fans from the United States of America, you can sign up using this exchange with a VPN and use the exchange with a VPN and just sign up using my referral link like normal, and you'll be treated like a normal customer because this is also a non-KYC exchange. So make sure to sign up using my referral link in the pinned comment or the description below, and without further ado, let's get back into the video. But I do want to just add to this by saying Ethereum's in a descending channel formation, which is bullish. Total cryptocurrency market cap's in a descending channel formation, which is bullish to a certain extent. And even something like the S&P 500 is in an uptrend. Now, the problem with the S&P 500 is that I don't think it's going to break the upside. I think that it hasn't seen lows yet. What you'll note is that the day we bottomed out on the S&P 500 was actually the 12th of August, and that was the day that FOMC released, right? That was the day that the last interest rate decision happened. Ever since then, we've been in an uptrend. Why have we been in an uptrend? We've been in an uptrend because in this meeting, ever since the last FOMC decision was released, a 50 basis point hike has become way more likely than a 75 basis point hike at about a 75% probability, meaning that the market saw, oh my God, look, this is what the market was saying. Look, oh wow, 75 basis point hikes are over. It's ready for 50 basis point hikes. And so now it's pricing that in. It's pricing it in that the Fed is taking, not a pivot, but it's lowering the magnitude of the rate hikes, and it's pumping the market. It's pricing in a 50 basis point hike rather than a 75 basis point hike. And I assume that when we do see that hike coming, even if it is 50 basis points, we will reject. We will reject off of this yellow resistance zone. That's what I'm expecting, and I think we'll go lower. And another, the major supporting factor of that, and this is something that I think no one can disagree with. I think this is objectively true. If you think the S&P 500 bottom is in, you are not looking at charts, my friend, right? You simply can't make that prediction. It is simply historically inconsistent. There is no valid argument you can make to say that the S&P 500 bottom is in, because here's why. The orange line is the interest rate line. The blue line is the S&P 500 price. We have only ever bottomed ever since 1974 when interest rates are going downwards. We have never bottomed in the entire history of the S&P 500 when interest rates are hiking. So to make the claim that the bottom is in when interest rates are still hiking is pure fallacy. It's completely fictional. It doesn't exist. So anyone who says the S&P 500 bottom is in is completely delusional. And it's not like even if they're right, they're still wrong in a certain sense, and that sounds weird to say, but it's true. Even if they are correct, they're still wrong because they simply just ignored 100% of the objective data that says the only thing that's ever happened historically is this, and they just went against it and they were right by complete luck. So the only logical thing to say is that the S&P 500 bottom is not in. And then, of course, you make the argument, well, if the S&P 500 bottom is not in, why do you think it's a relative probability that the Bitcoin bottom is in? And to that, I'd say, well, I'm not extremely positive that the Bitcoin bottom is in. I think it's more likely than not by maybe 60% chance. I'm really not that confident about it. But what I would say regardless is that the S&P 500 and Bitcoin are not perfectly connected. This is something we've seen before. The S&P 500 topped out in January. Bitcoin topped out in November. By the time the S&P 500 topped out in January, Bitcoin was already down 40%. We can see the same thing happen to the downside. And you're kind of lying to yourself if you think they're perfectly connected. I mean, even looking at the June lows, right? S&P 500 came down in June. Bitcoin found a low in June. Bitcoin didn't drop below that low until very recently. The S&P 500 was making new lows. By the time Bitcoin was going upwards, the S&P 500 was making new lows, right? They're not perfectly connected. I think it's a bit ridiculous to assume they are. They're really not. They're vaguely correlated, right? So, Bitcoin can very well and probably will bottom out before the S&P 500, especially considering the data we just looked at. So, yeah, that's my opinion on Bitcoin right now, guys. I think, over the week, it has become more and more evident to me that the most likely scenario is that the bottom is either in or might, be in around this region. Again, it's not something I'm confident about. So, it's not like I'm making a bold claim here, like, I think the bottom is in. It's like, look, if I had to guess, I'd say it probably is, right? That's kind of my opinion on Bitcoin right now. I just think that, if the FTX event, second largest exchange in Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency history, collapsed, and that took us to 15.6K. It's like, what can really take us lower? Obviously something can. Obviously something big could happen. There could be more, collapses of exchanges, I suppose. USDT, but that's all ifs. Like, I think realistically, something very, very, very big has happened, and who knows at this point. We are in a bearish pennant formation. right? It's worth noting we are in a bearish pennant formation, right? There is still a very convincing argument to be made that we could go down lower. I'm merely saying that if I had to guess at this point, I'd say it's probably in. But again, I do want to make that known. Like, it doesn't really matter what happens in terms of my prediction. What matters is what happens in terms of the buying plan. And I'm not ruling it out completely. I still think, it is possible. If I didn't think it was possible, I wouldn't have it in the buying plan. I think it is possible. As I said, 40% chance maybe, a little bit less likely. So yeah, that's my opinion on Bitcoin, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.